Assalamu alaikum, wunderschönen guten Morgen. This is, sorry. We are honored and privileged to have all of you here in our round today. Before I start, let me give the Lord of the House, Peter Liebe, a great welcome and many thanks to hosting us today. Thank you very much, Peter, for the house. Thank you. 1988, I was studying at the Technical University of Vienna, just a few meters ahead from this location. We have had a leading scientist. His name was Mouddar. He was working as a leading scientist in the Ghada organization. Later, he came over to the Technical University of Vienna and teach us network systems. And he raised one question. He asked the students, if you have a network and you would like to avoid any violation and hijacking of your computer, what are the measures you are taking? And the students were not very sure about everything, and there have been some answers, and he said, no, just disconnect from the network system. 34 years, I'm getting old. 34 years, and those are centuries when it comes to the information and communication technology. We are not able to disconnect from the World Wide Web, neither to disconnect or to be off the network when it's come to our smartphones and telecommunication. Centuries, really centuries ago. How to avoid attacking not only persons but also official entities. This is a very big question we are trying to elaborate. Let me ask our president, Dr. Schenz, whom I don't want to introduce, is well known to everybody, to deliver his welcoming speech. Dr. Rita, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. I'm really happy that we have a full house more or less. Some are already connected with video. So, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is with utmost honor and pleasure that we welcome you today to this one-day workshop in exchanging knowledge and expertise in the field of cybersecurity. First and foremost, allow me to extend a warm welcome. A warm welcome to His Excellency. Excellency Dr. Khaled Hanafi, Secretary General of the Union of Arab Chambers. I believe he is my video.
Yes.
Yes. His Excellency Mr. Ibrahim Assaf, the Ambassador of the Lebanese Republic of Austria to Austria and current Chair of the Arab Ambassadors Council in Vienna. I also like to welcome, to extend a special welcome to His Excellency Mr. Abdul Mased Al-Baoud, Chairman of the General Authority for Communication Information from Libya. Excellency Commissioner Waly, State Parliament and City Council Vienna, and to the Secretary General of the Austro-Arab Chamber, my good old friend, the Commissioner Khouja. I'm honored to welcome as well Their Excellencies, the Arab ambassadors to Austria, and representatives of the diplomatic corps, in addition to our distinguished panelists, experts, and guests from various international organizations and prominent Austrian ministries, institutions, and companies, such as UNODC, OPEC, OFIT, the Austrian Federal Chancellor, the Austrian Federal Ministry of Interior, and the Austrian Federal Ministry of Defense, the City of Vienna, and what they have seen, the representative of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. Moreover, I am pleased to welcome our high-level delegates coming from Jordan, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Ghada, Saudi Arabia, Syria, United Arab Emirates, other countries who are here with us today, both in person and online. Ladies and gentlemen, as we meet here in person for the first time after our 2 years, hindered by the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, we come together today to discuss and share expertise on cybersecurity in an ever-expanding topic that has only become more important in relevant over the past years. Our modern life would be unimaginable without the comprehensive infrastructure that we have in this database life, which nonetheless require a lot of efforts to make life as smoothly as possible. In a more digitally connected, cybersecurity becomes highly essential and strategic issue for all kinds of our ICT infrastructure and services. Cybercrime is evolving as a complex form of transnational crime that takes place in the borderless realm of cyberspace. Governments as well as private entities need to be prepared for threats and attacks coming from organized crime groups located in different regions. Its effects can ripple through societies around the world, highlighting the need to mount an urgent, dynamic, and international response. Despite the tendency to believe that the risks are well known, the risk service is still expanding, with thousands of new vulnerable being reported in old and new applications and devices. To mitigate the risk, governments and institutions must strengthen cooperation, widen the scope of focus to encompass the entire public-private cybersecurity ecosystem. Throughout this one-day workshop, high-level officials and senior experts will present their knowledge and share to expertise in the field of cybersecurity, taking topics of paramount importance to governments, companies, and individuals who are not limited to protection of IT infrastructure and blockchain cyber attacks and frauds. trust services, and secure communication, digital sovereignty, transparency in the cloud. We thank you for being present with us today, and we wish you a pleasant and fruitful workshop. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce or just honor today, I would like also to welcome His Excellency Dr. Khaled Hanafi, the representative and head of mission of the Gulf Cooperation Council. Warm welcome to you. Thank you very much. And His Excellency Khouja, the head of mission of the Arab team, the service shows. Till now, we are waiting is coming in the next few minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I discussed this topic with a lot of friends of us, and one of the friends is Her Excellency Waly. She is not only the Director General of the UNODC and the Executive Director of the United Nations Office at Vienna, the UNOV, and also the Undersecretary General of the United Nations. But she is a very knowledgeable person. If I will go through her CV, we won't end today, but it's amazing what she has arrived, former Minister of Egypt, and I've had the chance to talk with her before she arrived to Vienna, while she was preparing for the trip to Vienna. And we are very honored and privileged to welcome her today. And it is very important that UNODC taking this topic as a core topic of their activities. Allow me to welcome and ask Her Excellency Mrs. Ghada Waly to deliver hers. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and apologies again for arriving late. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors, friends, I'm pleased to address this workshop on cybersecurity and cybercrime. I would like to commend the Austro-Arab Chamber of Commerce for bringing stakeholders together at this timely event to discuss topics of growing importance. Actually, at the AACC, member states are meeting to discuss the new convention for cybercrime. Information and communication technologies have become an essential part of how people interact with each other in every sphere of life. Social connections, business transactions, and political outreach and debate are all taking place online and through digital platforms at a greater rate than ever before. A fact that was reinforced during the COVID-19 pandemic, when such platforms were often the only safe or available way to interact with each other. The digital realm has become normalized as a shared space for a growing range of activities. Like any shared space, it has given rise to new risks of crime. Gaps and limitations are inherent to ambitious new technologies, and cybercrime exploits those gaps for private gain, endangering people and societies. Privacy, security, and even lives can be threatened by the misuse of ICT for criminal purposes. While some estimates indicate that the cost of cybercrime for the global economy exceeds $1 trillion annually. Crimes that rely on ICT, such as phishing or ransomware, continue to prove difficult to prevent or prosecute, given their technical sophistication and scope for anonymity. Meanwhile, criminals are using ICTs and the internet, including the dark web, to commit an ever broader range of offenses and to launder the proceeds of their crimes. Trafficking in persons targets potential victims through ICT using deception and false promises. Children are often targeted when online, including for sexual exploitation. The illicit drug market is growing online as well, particularly on dark web markets. The amount of illicit drugs sold online remains a small portion of the total market, but it is a portion that is growing every single year, while drug precursors are often traded on the dark web with anonymity and impunity, using misleading names and labels. Other illicit goods are also being trafficked through digital platforms, taking advantage of the challenges in regulating such platforms and tracing illegal transactions. Looted cultural property is traded in online auction houses. Illicit firearms are bought and sold anonymously, potentially for use in violent crimes. In some instances, ICTs are also used by terrorist groups to recruit members and even to plan and carry out attacks. As these threats proliferate online and through ICT's national borders become less capable of containing them, and the needs to secure online and digital interaction from crime becomes more and more relevant. Securing information and communication systems is a priority. It's also a challenge of technology, capacities, legislation, and more. It's essential for the international community to work together to equip all countries, including developing countries, with the necessary tools and capacities. At the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, we are supporting member states to keep up with the dynamic threat of cybercrime in cooperation with all stakeholders. UNODC's global program on cybercrime provides technical assistance to more than 56 countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, helping them to develop the capacity to detect, investigate, and process cybercrime cases. Our office is providing support to a diverse range of actors, including judges, prosecutors, investigators, and law enforcement officers, as well as ombudsman offices, private sector companies, and NGOs. To keep pace with the threat, we have been providing focused assistance on emerging challenges, such as dark web investigations, threats associated with cryptocurrencies, and digital forensic evidence. Cyberspace remains relatively new territory when it comes to regulation and legislation, and we have been promoting effective and accountable responses that preserve people's safety as well as their rights. Cybercrime raises many challenging questions, and among the most challenging are those that relate to international cooperation and jurisdiction. Digital acts, including criminal ones, take place in a context where national sovereignty and jurisdiction are much more complex, and where much of the evidence tends to be electronic. Strong frameworks for international cooperation are necessary to define the rules and parameters and to facilitate cross-border law enforcement. Today, many important regional tools and frameworks exist to enhance cooperation, including in the Arab region, which has elaborated the Convention on Combating Information Technology Offenses, but there is no universal UN framework to tackle these issues. To address this, member states are currently negotiating the new UN Convention on the misuse of ICT for criminal purposes. The goal is to finalize the draft convention by September 2024. And as we speak, delegations are gathered at the Vienna International Center to make progress towards this goal. There will be important discussions to have, including on the scope of the offenses covered by the Convention, access to data across borders, and harmonization of legislation in different parts of the world. UNODC is acting as secretary to this process to support the international community in ensuring that the involvement of ICTs in a crime does not represent a barrier to effective cooperation. Responses to cybercrime can never be complete without incorporating the voice and role of different stakeholders, in particular the private sector. The systems used or targeted by cybercriminals are usually owned or operated by private sector companies. This means that private sector actors have particular agency and responsibility in countering this form of crime. Businesses, including internet service providers, must establish safeguards and cooperate with governments within clearly defined legal frameworks to prevent and counter cybercrime when it tries to take advantage of the services they provide. Civil society also has an essential role, working together with governments, the UN, and the private sector to raise awareness and promote the exchange of good practices and ideas. That is why I'm particularly pleased to be here with you and the AACC today, an NGO that promotes cooperation with and between private sector entities to discuss the importance of securing our shared digital space. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ICTs have unleashed vast new possibilities for connection and innovation. Our common agenda, launched last year by the UN Secretary General, envisions universal internet access as a basic human right and proposes the Global Digital Compact to connect everyone to a safe and responsible digital space. Criminal misuse of ICTs undermines the vision everywhere and puts people at risk. By building strong capacities in developing countries and establishing robust mechanisms for international cooperation, we can secure cyberspace for lawful use and protect its users from criminal exploitation while working to preserve a transparent and free internet. Thank you very much, and good luck in your deliberations, and thank you for discussing this important topic.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Her Excellency, for the speech. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have started organizing this event, we have in Austria the Ministry of Economy and Digitization were responsible for this topic. And then we have had some reorganizations and reappointments, and now we are very lucky to have a State Secretary of Digitization represented by Mr. Wolfgang Ebner. Wolfgang Ebner is really a very knowledgeable person when it's come to this topic itself. But now he is getting Chief of Cabinet of State Secretary Tursky, and therefore let me welcome Mr. Ebner to deliver the speech of the State Secretary of Digitization under the Ministry of Finance in Austria. Mr. Ebner, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning here in Vienna. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, we're living in turbulent times. I don't mean this from a political point of view. There are turbulent times concerning the issue or the topic of this conference, which is the maximum important topic for all of us. The issues of cybersecurity, cybercrime, information security, we have various different terms for all the obstacles and all the tasks we have to tackle within the digital world. We just realized that the province of Austria here in Vienna was offline for approximately 6 to 8 days. And they are now back on their way in the digital world again. This is one of the youngest examples. We have several others. We had cybersecurity threats, the capability for international affairs just a few years ago. We see now this, the latest case we have to tackle, and is still under, on one side, under investigation, but on the other side, also on their way back to the digital world. And what we've seen there in Caribbean, not all these other examples just mentioned, is the importance of cybersecurity and information security within systems. Because all of us, citizens, as well as the economy, and at least also our governments and our administrations, they are working in the digital world. We have workflows, we have email communication, we have other communications. Everything is managed within the internet, is managed within the digital world. And when there are services, when there are workflows within the digital world, there are also criminals. It's in the analog world the same like in the virtual world. And the damage and the loss of money within the virtual world is already, years ago it was higher than drug criminals and other criminals of criminal energy. Therefore, information security and cybersecurity are of utmost importance for all of us. What is in common for all of these tasks within cybersecurity is that this is not a national problem. It's a hacking or a ransomware attack is not dealt within one country. This is very seldom. Most of the attacks, most of the threats are in the virtual world, in the real world. So that means there's only one answer to tackle all these cybersecurity issues. This is cooperation. And therefore, it is very important, and I'm very happy, or we are very happy, on each initiative, like this initiative between the Austrian and the European and the Arabian world, to tackle these issues together, to bring together best practices, to bring together the experts. And you will hear also one expert from Austria. I can already mention Mr. Khaled Hanafi, who is the Director General of the Austrian Center for Secure Information Technology. And I really wish you, all of us, and all of you, a very fruitful workshop within this day to bring together the expertise as well as maybe also some answers on our way to cybersecurity world. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ebner, for these words. Allow me to welcome our next speaker. I have to make the statement always when we have this gentleman completing his, they are very charming. But this is not his role today. He's, by the way, the chair of the Arab Ambassador Council in Vienna, of course, Ambassador of the Lebanese Republic to Austria, and also to the UN. Allow me to welcome His Excellency Mr. Assaf to deliver his speech in the name of all Arab ambassadors. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to speak on behalf of the new Arab ambassadors in Vienna. Allow me to commence by thanking the Austro-Arab Chamber of Commerce for organizing this workshop on exchanging knowledge and expertise in the field of cybersecurity. Let me also reiterate our appreciation to the Chamber for its outstanding steady efforts on strengthening and promoting the commercial ties between Austria and Arab countries. Our modern day world is interconnected like never before. Globalization, the technological revolution, and the giant leaps in information and communication technologies have brought peoples and economies closer. This shift has introduced sweeping changes to the international trade landscape, bringing e-commerce to the forefront of the global commercial activity and giving rise to digital currencies, NFTs, and the metaverse. The growing reliance of international trade on cyberspace, nonetheless, poses challenges that require careful consideration. Cybersecurity stands today as one of the most crucial challenges to the global trade architecture. Ensuring a safe and reliable cyberspace is an indispensable need for a thriving economy, and that's only achievable through a comprehensive partnership between all stakeholders, and in particular, governments and the private sector. In order to prevent the risk of cybercrime in the Arab region, Arab countries have given considerable attention to the cyber challenge. The League of Arab States has initiated and proposed several decisions and legislations on cybersecurity. In this regard, the Councils of Arab Interior and Justice Ministers adopted in 2010 the Arab Convention to Combat Information Technology Crimes, which entered into force in 2014. Under the auspices of the United Nations, the international community is currently working collectively towards establishing an international legal instrument to prevent and counter the use of the ICTs for criminal purposes. I'm happy to highlight that Arab countries are at the core of the discussions on this global today. And as just mentioned by UNOV Director General, Her Excellency, Madam Waly, right now, there is a committee meeting at the UNOV on cyber crime, and it's led by the Ambassador of Algeria, Her Excellency, Madam Mouddar. Finally, on behalf of the group of Arab ambassadors, I would like to thank you again for organizing this important function. And I wish the panelists and the participants a successful workshop. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Just learned from His Excellency that Ambassador Mouddar is getting sick. Therefore, Ambassador Mouddar is the official legal of our service. Ladies and gentlemen, he's supposed to be here, our next speaker, but he has got an invitation to be the Tunisian president, and he met him yesterday, and I'm accompanying today the Secretary General of the European Union to Tunisia. Therefore, we have only a video message of him. This is my colleague and former Minister of Supply and Internal Trade of Egypt, and currently the Secretary General of the UNOV. Chambers, allow me to present to you His Excellency Professor Dr. Khaled Hanafi, and he will deliver his speech on the video message.
I'm so glad to participate today in this important event and really exchanging the knowledge regarding such an important topic, the topic of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is now becoming very important, and the threat of cybersecurity make this topic to be qualified to be the next world crisis. This type of events make us being able to collaborate, a collaboration between Austria from one side and the Arab world from the other side regarding this important matter. In the Arab world, there is an increase in the use of digitalization and the use of the ICT, and gradually, simultaneously, while doing so, there is an importance for the cybersecurity, because when we increase this usage of these technologies, we are more vulnerable to have attacks. The Arab countries' market for cybersecurity is dramatically increasing. It is estimated now to be around $2 billion. In the coming few years, it's expected to be around $3 billion. So there is a great need for having investment in this area. The Arab private sector that I am honored to represent are to a great extent care about having cybersecurity in all ways. We in the private sector, we are against any type of corruption, any type of violation of the new methods and systems. So we need to have collaboration between the private sector from one hand, the public sector on the other hand, and thanks for the international organization that represented now by the UNOCD and Her Excellency Dr. Ghada Waly. It's really very important to have all these actors together to deal with this important topic. Actually, in the cybersecurity, we have many topics to tackle, and we really need to do some sort of EID or something to make us being able to handle the violation of the privacy from one hand, on the information on the second hand, and to encourage authorities and governments to go more and more in depth in adapting technology and digitalization. The whole world, as we know, is changing sharply, and the dependency on technology, on digital issues, is increasing dramatically as well. So we need to go hand in hand by increasing the usage of digitalization, of ICT, and by having the security needed for this. So thanks again for everybody here for giving us the opportunity to listen and to learn and to know how we can work on making the world becoming a better world.
The audience, to the analysts to stay and to have a common future. Please.